I see it.
Oh yeah, you can see it too. Hello, people. Not sure if we're on right yet, but now I know we are. Um, Hi,
Hello.
hello. Or as I think you're supposed to say when you start YouTube video, hey guys, right?
Is
My
that what we
kids,
say?
they watch a lot of YouTube and every single thing goes, hey guys, so hey guys,
Hey
this
guys.
is Catherine Bissell Cordova, Executive Director of Chicago Fair Trade, and I'm so thrilled to introduce you all and to chat briefly today. We could talk for hours. But we won't do that. But introduce you to one of our newest board members, Chad. Chad Nico Hugh. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Perfect. You nailed it on the first try.
Oh, Hugh. Okay, I got that.
Yep.
So anyhow, welcome, Chad. First off, I just wanted you to introduce yourself to our people. A little brief background. I know you've got actually quite a long, interesting background. I mean, there's a lot you could talk about, but if you give us the highlights of,
Sure.
why are you
here? So my name is Chad Nico Hugh. I born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. Have the privilege of having traveled to about 40 countries on almost every continent of the world. I work for the YMCA of the USA, 17-year YMCA professional. Currently serve as the Senior Director of Diversity and Inclusion with YMCA of the USA's national office here in beautiful, especially today, Chicago. And I am a new board member to Chicago Fair Trade, as well as serving on the board of directors for Howard Brown Health and the Tyler Clemente Foundation. But I'm passionate about fair trade and the opportunity to truly put one's money where one's mouth is in this time when we all have to be so strategic about where we spend our funds, the limited funds we have, be it individually or organizationally, to make sure we're helping to support the quality of life and not support any injustices or inequities.
That it was beautifully said. We're so happy to have you on board. You'll be a wonderful spokesperson. You already are for our organization. So you had just said, so you are your position again at the YMCA is Senior Director of Diversity and Inclusion.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a part of a 13-person team at the present time. I report to our amazing Chief Diversity, Inclusion, and Global Officer, Linda Gonzalez Chavez, under the direct leadership of our CEO, Kevin Washington, at the national office.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit what it's like, your work as a diversity and inclusion specialist, and now, obviously it's always very important. We know that right now it's incredibly heavy work and anyhow, so can you tell us a bit what it is you're trying to achieve, what your team is doing there?
Absolutely, Catherine. And you and I were talking about this just previously, that there is this work of diversity, equity, inclusion is really hard right now, and it's heavy right now. And leading in general, any group of people, any organization, as you know, is heavy right now. And our goal at the Y, and I'm pausing because our goal is evolving, to be honest. 3 weeks ago, we talked about the last 2 words of our mission statement being for all. Today, we are talking about how the Y is on a journey to becoming an anti-racist, multicultural organization. We talk about how we need to confront and work to undo systemic racism in our organization at the national office, as well as, since we're a federated organization with over 800 independently incorporated 501c3s chartered as YMCAs across the country, and every one of those Ys serving 10,000 communities, reaching over 24 million people. We are working to try to model the practices of equity, the idea that what unites us is stronger than what divides us across every dimension of diversity, be it political, be it societal, be it race or ethnicity or sexual orientation or gender identity or any of that. And we recognize that today, our Black and African American communities are under attack. And that is the crux of where we all, in my opinion, and this is Chad just speaking my opinion, we need to make sure that we center Black voices. We need to make sure that we show up and shut up sometimes as allies. We need to make sure that we admit what we know and what we don't know. And at the Y, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to learn and we're trying to grow. And I think that also applies to Chicago Fair Trade. And for many, fair trade is the entry point to understanding about social justice, to understanding about systems change, understanding about global responsibility. And there's always so much more that we can learn and do, but everyone has to start somewhere. And starting with fair trade is a really, really good way to begin to flex one's equity muscles, if that makes sense.
I'm totally Oh my gosh, I'm gonna use all the. I'm gonna credit you, but you speak about it. So that's such a beautiful way of speaking about it. I've said that. I worked for many years in social justice circles, working for immigrant rights and human rights and worker rights. But I've always said too, when I moved into fair trade, um, one reason I love it so much is because it is such a good entry point.
Yes. Oh, wow.
It's a very good entry point to say, like, well, a lot of times too, honestly, I'm like, I'll be at a restaurant. Oh, I like your earrings. I'm like, really? Thank you.
Let me tell you more.
You know,
Yep.
but and we're so it's. I mean, I know it's not easy with big institutions, and that's an incredible statistic. I'm sitting here trying to calculate because my brain works that way. But when you said 24 million people, that's like, one in every 13 Americans or something like that.
Like,
One in every 13
yep.
or 14 people in this country is a part of YMCA. So that's really hard. And I know in all sorts of, you work, I'm sure, in all sorts of community with every single ethnic group represented in race and everything that they're in, all the diversity of this country. So that's an incredible. I could see why that's heavy too. And you're working a lot of hours. So did you do a lot of going around and do you work with a lot of the staff at the different regional offices, or how's
so
before March? How did
So it's interesting. The way that we actually do this work has always been through local Ys and through our state alliances. And before March, we used to provide in-person support through consultations, individualized, customized, and also trainings that are some of them pre-cooked and some of them were created on demand. We're doing much of that still today. It's just on platforms like this over Zoom. We were just facilitating a conversation this morning for about 100 of our local Y CEOs, just a small portion of which was around this. In short, local Ys, every one of the over 800, much like chapters and individual offices of fair trade, I believe, respond to the local needs of our communities, right? So every Y looks different, and every Y has a different set of operational goals and objectives, ideally crafted and co-created with their community. At the national office, we lead through influence. We lead through relationships. We lead through keeping our fingers on the pulse of every cross-section of society. Because we always say that at the Y, at least, and this is true of many association type of organizations, we're a microcosm of the nation, right? So the same issues that polarize and create divides within America, the United States of America, also create divides and sometimes polarize the Y, but the difference is in the Y. Like in fair trade, there's a commonality, right? When we come to the National Fair Trade Conference every year, there's something we all understand that we may have all come from different walks of life, voted for different people, practice different faiths, but we have that thing that bonds us together. And as long as we have that, we can sew together the strands of our very frayed social fabric in a way that is intertwined with empathy and compassion, humility and understanding that can then tackle the ignorance and the hatred and the lack of willingness to embrace what is different from ourselves. And that's really what diversity, equity, inclusion work is all about, at least in my opinion.
Well, no, and I value your opinion in that. I know that, you have, I believe now for 3 years, presented at the Fair Trade Campaigns. Fair Trade Campaigns, for those of you who don't know, is a national group working towards helping people get designation for fair trade universities, fair trade schools, fair trade congregations, of which Chicago is the largest fair trade town, though.
Right. Congratulations.
Eclipse us, thanks. But well, you too. But LA is about to eclipse us, and we welcome that. The more the merrier.
Absolutely.
But how is it that can you share a little bit? I know a little bit of the story, but I think it's a nice story. How it is that you ended up learning about fair trade and becoming involved in it.
So I love this story, and Billy, if you do hear this video, you're gonna remember this moment, hopefully. So I had the opportunity through the YMCA's relationship with an organization called the Nonprofit Leadership Alliance, NLA, to meet Billy. We were in a conference in a I don't even remember what city somewhere. Somebody made a comment that was slightly offensive to me as an openly gay man. In addition to being Asian, my husband and I have been together for 10 years. And Billy just graciously stepped in with that dry sense of humor that he does and just basically had my back and diffused it. And I remember thinking, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you do. And then when I found out what fair trade is, that he worked for fair trade, I kind of said, well, now I'm going to learn what that is. And through Billy's friendship and then meeting Kylie, and then really then being invited to the Fair Trade Campaigns Conference and meeting the incredible young people that mobilize this effort, and meeting some of the amazing folks from overseas that also mobilize this effort. I had to know more. And then in exploring and understanding what is happening here in Chicago, my adopted hometown, and what the opportunities are for WISE, both at the national level and individually, especially through our young people as well, had to get involved. So to be frank, I was bugging Kylie for how I could get engaged more for a while until she connected with you, Catherine. And now I'm eager to learn and to work once we, can work outside of from our computers together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so Kylie and Billy are the two staff at Fair Trade Campaign. So I loved that story, and I'm glad that it was we've said I think in an email or two, we are so happy that during this doubly difficult time, at first with the COVID, we were so happy that we during this time at Chicago Fair Trade are growing, actually, rather than contracting. We added 5 new board members in May, which is really astounding. We had never done this before. We put out a call for board members. Generally it was word of mouth, and you sometimes with organizations want someone who's had a little bit of engagement with an organization, but we, and I'll be honest, there are a couple of people on the board that were kind of like, oh, sometimes when organizations do that, it sounds a little desperate, because sometimes you'll see on, LinkedIn or Idealist, like looking for board members and opening it up to the whole world. But anyhow, we crafted, Andrea Dennis, our co-chair, crafted a beautiful, I think, call for members, and saying that actually we are at a kind of crossroads, and fair trade is really growing. And so we want to grow. And so we put out the call. We had 17 people. Oh, wow. We were like, maybe 1 or 2 people, and most of them are people we know that are great. We have 5 new board members. We'll be adding more. And another new board member, and hopefully she'll be available for a tea time, Jocelyn Letzinger. She joined our board. And we had a call last night, and she was on it. She teaches at University of Illinois, Chicago. She too is she moved here about 2 years ago, as did you, I think. You guys have about the same amount of time here. She teaches at the business school, but she teaches about social movements. And she was saying she studies social movements, and she said that all that is we started with what is something that's brought you hope, because we try to be positive in fair trade. We face a lot of harsh realities. Try to, obviously when you're dealing with child labor and child slavery and sweatshops and all that, it's heavy. But the good thing that many of us are drawn to fair trade for is that there's an alternative, and we're showing people there is a better way. But anyhow, so we're talking about what's something that brought us hope. And she said that this past 2 weeks that she's never seen a social movement where so much change has already happened in 2 weeks. So that anyhow, I'm just so excited with our new crew, and to have such wonderful new allies, especially, I know it's not easy. Sometimes the larger the institution, the slower it sometimes is to get the changes. But I know already, now at the YMCA, there's more and more people there aware of fair trade, thanks to you. And I know that will continue to grow. And we appreciate that. But yeah, so and if I don't know if you could maybe just wrap up with just sharing a little bit about why. Yeah, you'd said a bit, but what it is about fair trade, aside from Billy, who's wonderful, but when you started to learn about it, some of it that resonated, and where you see, how that is important work in the, with the DEI work that you do. Sure.
No, and I think that you kind of stole my thunder there, Catherine. I think, or the other board member whose name I can't remember that I'm going to get to know did. It does. Yeah. It is. A lot of times when confronted with the ills and the pain and the injustice in the world, we can get focused on all the challenges. And I find fair trade to be a way to fix it, a strategy to tangibly and candidly, tangibly and effectively adjust. It sounds cliche, but literally help change the world through where we invest our money. If you haven't read the book by Edgar Villanueva, Decolonizing Wealth, it's an amazing read. And he really talks about wealth and money being something that is not inherently evil, something that we can use when intentional to actually decolonize, to undo this system. Now, everybody's talking about system, but very few people can define it. Don't know if I can, but what I understand about it is it's a structure put in place by people in power. Those people that put that in power are the same kind of folks that have oppressed a lot of the people who are working in sweatshops, who are working on the farms and the fields with unfair labor practices, putting their health at risk every day, while we in much of the developing world are profiting from it. We're living off of it. My Gatorade, right? Everything that we buy. When I found out that Honest Tea is fair trade, I walked around all of YUSA saying, drink this. And they used to laugh at me saying, you and your fair trade stuff again. But you know what? That matters. It does, because it can help change the world. And that's what drew me to it. And to quote you, quoting our other board member, there's hope on the streets, right? Imagine when, and I hope this doesn't die down before real change comes, but I see fair trade as a way for people who want to continue that engagement. One way, and that is a global movement with a huge national presence that is youth driven, to continue to undo systemic racism in the most truest sense on a global context. So that's what I hope that we can do together. I hope that anyone that wants to listen to this recording of a chat between you and I gets out of this is learn more about how you can advance fair trade in your own communities. Be careful and mindful where you spend your money. Pick up the thing that has a fair trade logo and ask questions. There's nothing wrong with learning and growing together. That's how we can literally make a better world, change the world.
Well, I'm decolonizing wealth, you said?
Yeah, by Edgar Villanueva. He's a hero of mine in all kinds of ways, and he's super popular, has a Twitter presence like you wouldn't believe. But that book changed my life. If you are sort of, it sounds like you are social justice-y, like we all are. It's an amazing read.
Yeah, no, and I mean, and if you talk about, I mean, yeah, I'm looking now. I mean, it is something, it's amazing, you know, in the past 2 weeks, all of a sudden you see all these people talking about generational wealth and, you know, of course, redlining and all this and the inequities. And I do see it as a time for fair trade, really hoping when we come through a lot of this, that fair trade will be more at the forefront. And I think with people like you on our board, it will be. And so here I'll end on this. Honest Tea and the YMCA vending machine. Let's work on that, okay? I'm sure you probably already have. But anyhow, well, yeah, we could start in Chicago and pilot it. Anyhow, excellent. Well, so nice to see you.
You too.
Thank you for all of you tuning in. And we will keep on keeping on. Okay. Good luck with all your work, all your good work. Okay.
Thank you. Right back at you. Talk to you soon.
Okay.